As you know, I am a journalist. Can you hear me at the back? And something extraordinary happened in around August 1994 when I was working with India Today in Delhi. You all are familiar with the story that a man wanted in a terrorism case, in a case which was unprecedented till then, anywhere in the world, a case of serial bombings in a major city, Bombay, which had taken place in March 1993. So one of the main accused in that case, the CPI found was loitering outside Old Delhi railway station and he was arrested. Now, as a journalist, I was assigned to cover this story. And in subsequent days, I discovered that actually this man had been arrested at Kathmandu airport and then brought to India. And then through the CBI investigators, I also discovered that he had brought along with him a significant amount of material, both electronic and documentary, video film, audio recordings, identity cards, passports, documents regarding properties, newly set up businesses, all relating to the Mehman family. Now, as you all know, Tiger Mehman was a gangster and smuggler in Bombay who was the main organizer and perpetrator of the 12th May bombings in Bombay. And Yaqub was his younger brother. So our agencies were totally bewildered. What's happened? And the main CBI investigator came to me for help. They were desperately trying to figure out, was this ISI trap that Yaqub had been sent to India with false material, false documents, so that when we try to use it, then we will be exposed as lying in the international community. So the CBI investigator gave me a few addresses in Karachi. And he said, he told me what goes where and can you get a photograph. I've been to Karachi, I was familiar with those addresses. They belong to some of the most expensive areas in Karachi, really posh areas. I knew a rather gutsy Pathan photographer in Karachi. I told him what it was about. I said, can you go and take pictures? He took pictures. And when they were sent back and we published them, it was Dawood Ibrahim's bungalow, it was Tiger Mehman's bungalow, it was a bungalow of a Pakistani smuggler called Tawfiq Jaliawala, and some other things. Now, this confirmed to the CIA, corroborated that the story Yaqub was giving them corresponded with what a photojournalist had found out in Karachi. Now, after that, or maybe before that, I was also introduced to Yaqub Mehman. I still remember that vividly, because he was still wearing his Pakistani clothes. Burgundy was his favorite color. And he was wearing a burgundy shalwar and a shirt, looking quite scared, sitting on the floor in the CBI officer's room. Then the CBI showed me a video he had brought. Now, besides videos of Dawood Ibrahim's house and other bungalows, this video had a detailed room-by-room picturization of the house in which the Mehmans were living in Karachi. Then they made me listen to the audio tapes, which was basically these gangsters sitting and talking about their exploits, about the ISI, about Dawood Ibrahim, things like that. Anyway, what all this material did was, for the first time, give Indian agencies solid evidence of the fact that AISA and Pakistan had supported Tiger Memon and his gang and had helped Tiger Memon to organize the attack on Bombay on 12 March. I interviewed the Home Minister of India at that time, published it to me. S.B. Chauhan was the Home Minister. And he said, in that recorded interview, that, these were not his exact words, but this is what he said, that thanks to the material brought by Yaqub Memon from Pakistan, at that time, as happens even today, our main concern was to convince the Americans that the bombing of Bombay was organized by the ISI and Pakistan. We had very little evidence to prove that. Whatever we had is something which, the CIA would say, oh well, we can also manufacture this evidence. It's no big deal. But Yaqub, for the first time, bought material. Yaqub and then the remaining family members who came from Dubai brought material which was incontrovertible. Genuine Pakistani passports of the Memons under assumed names. And lots of things like that. So Chauhan told me that after Yaqub's return, my officers gave a 3-hour presentation to the new American ambassador, and no objective person listening or seeing and listening to that presentation would not be convinced after that Pakistan had a hand in the bombings. Now this was a major victory for India, in the sense that the Mumbai bombings came out of the blue, but quite clearly, at the time of the Mumbai bombings, I used to live in Bombay. In fact, I was in Bombay all through the post-Babri Masjid riots and the bombings until the end of that year. And I knew the crime branch officers well. I was covering the riots and the bombings also as a journalist. And I knew that the police officers were certain, after interrogating the men they had caught, that this was organized from Pakistan. But there was no incontrovertible evidence. Yaqub provided that. And then Yaqub also assisted the CBI in getting his family members back from Pakistan via Dubai. 8 adults and 3 children. Now, of those 8 adults, 7 actually went to the Consul General in Pakistan with their genuine Pakistani passports carrying fake names and gave an application saying, I am so-and-so Memon. And, but this is a passport issued to me under an assumed name by the Pakistani authorities. I want to go back to India. Kindly give me a visa. And on that basis, the Indian Consul General in Dubai issued visas on Pakistani passports. And they all came back. Now, something really strange happened after they came back. They were all thrown into Arthur Road prison, including children. Now, just a small detail here. Actually, when the Memons fled from Karachi to Dubai to come back to India. Yaqub's wife was about to deliver, and she delivered after reaching Dubai. And so she could not travel on that Pakistani passport because the child was not listed in that passport. So it took a long time for her passport. It took some days for her passport, Indian passport to be made, with the child included in that passport, Yaqub's daughter. And now the Mehman family member who had gone from here to locate the Mehmans, organize all this and bring them back, actually told me recently that, this could be a metaphorical thing or it could be literal. But they told us that, listen, don't worry, you go on your Pakistani passports to India, even if we have a problem with it. Okay, the other thing was that the ISI was chasing the Mehmans. Now it's a long, dramatic, complicated story. But the ISI was chasing the Mehmans in Dubai. Firstly, the ISI tried to stop the Nepali authorities from handing over Yaqub to India in Nepal. And those days particularly, the ISI had some prominent politicians as allies, members of the National Assembly. So it had much more influence in Nepal than it probably does today. Now, so it was a tussle. I imagine that one reason why Nepali authorities would also have sent him to India was, I imagine Yaqub told them, no, I want to go to India, because clearly he knew he had burnt his boats as far as Pakistan is concerned. So the same thing again in Dubai. A cloak and dagger operation with the ISI trying to stop them. And with the Council General officials assuring the Mehmans, listen, if we can't send Yaqub's wife and daughter because of the ISI, because they, once again, they were keeping watch on Dubai airport, and the Mehmans discovered they were going to fly back tomorrow. The travel documents had been cleared. They suddenly discovered all their bookings had been cancelled mysteriously. So they rang the CBI guy here. Now the CBI guy told them, don't, rebook for Dubai, but clearly the ISI is watching Dubai airport. A new Air India flight had started then, which people didn't know about much, from Sharjah to Delhi. You book on that flight, and through a complicated cloak and dagger operation, they were taken to Sharjah airport by the Indian Council General officials and then brought to Delhi. All that this illustrates is that the government of India was the Ministry of External Affairs, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the CBI was very closely involved in the Mehmans coming back. So after they came back, they were thrown into jail. Parents, brothers, sisters, children, everyone went to jail. Yaqub, of course, was accused number one, so he was. And the whole public discourse changed. Now what happened at that time is that, on the one hand, officials were celebrating that we have scored a coup against the ISI. I mean, this was the first time in the annals of crime anywhere in the world that such a serious crime, a major terrorist attack on a metropolitan city, 8 accused, or was it not, 8 accused had come back voluntarily to the country where they were wanted for that crime and where they would have got the death penalty. So, officials in Delhi were very elated by what had happened. But what had happened was so incredible that, like it happened in the last few weeks with the media and certain prominent people in public life, politicians, journalists, others screaming that Yaqub must hang. You can't, unless a terrorist hangs, we will lose the war on terrorism, etc. At that time, you had people screaming, the government of India has done a deal with the terrorists. They will be let off. So Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. And at some point, the government got scared. And the CBI got instructions that, listen, no matter what we have gained from the memos, forget about it. We have to feed the memos to the wolves. Virtually saying hang them. And you see that reflected in the prosecution case. Now, to take just one example, the passports which the Memons came on, the Pakistani passports, actually became evidence against them of their complicity in the bomb conspiracy. And the judge even got a consular official from Karachi to appear before him to confirm that those were authentic passports. So, where the Memons should have been applauded for having exposed the conspiracy that was hatched in Pakistan, and the evidence they had brought showed that same evidence was used against them. Every bit of it was turned against them to show that they were in fact complicit in the conspiracy. Now, it gives you an idea that in terrorism cases especially, because terrorism is a political crime and it involves a certain discourse in public which is different from, I would say, even for a rapist murderer, because that is also a major public discourse, but terrorism becomes a national security issue. And with Pakistan next door, it becomes, an even more sensitive and exceptional issue. So, the state, in a sense, chickened out. And the problem really started from there on. Now, Narasimha Rao had a choice at that time. If he was politically courageous, he could have gone before the people and said, now, as far as the Bombay bombings were concerned, this was never said publicly, would never have been said in court. Even today, it is not said, because we tend to sort of dance around gingerly around these issues. But clearly, the bombings in Bombay on 12th March, which killed more than 250 people and injured hundreds, they were an act of Muslim terrorism. They were not jihadi terrorism. These were gangsters. These were not men trained to become religious killers. But what they did was because of they identified themselves as Muslims. They felt angry and aggrieved by the communal riots in December, January. And I was there once again. Both Hindus and Muslims died in that riot. But overall, the way the Shiv Sena Shiv Sena thugs were allowed to roam around, and the way sections of the police, not every police, sections of the police not just supported them, but took the initiative, actually shot people, innocent people dead. Now, so it had acquired the character of an anti-Muslim incident, massacre or killings, anti-Muslim killings, rather than the more balanced communal riot of the old days where both sides would be killing each other, and in the end, of course, more Muslims would generally die than Hindus, but that is inevitable when you are in a minority. So anyway, so this was an act of Muslim terrorism. But the riots itself had an interesting backdrop. You know, often people draw a line, being a connection between the demolition of the Babri Masjid, the Hindu-Muslim violence in Bombay in December and January, and the bombings on 12th May. But actually something else had preceded that, which was also inextricably linked, and which as a journalist I was seeing from close up, which was high stakes struggle between two top Congress cabinet ministers. The ministers were S.B. Chauhan, who was Home Minister, and Sharad Pawar, who was Defense Minister. And S.B. Chauhan, as Home Minister, was trying to destroy the underworld political base. All politicians in Bombay had an underworld political base. And Pawar actually had prominent gangsters connected to his party, like the Thakur brothers of North Bombay. So Chauhan was trying to undercut Pawar's power in Bombay. And mind you, as it is today, Bombay is a city which generates thousands of crores for of cash money for politicians and political parties. It was the same that time, it's much more now, but it was the same in those days. So control of Bombay was very important. And then you had a weak chief minister. So as I see the riots themselves, I was in the suburbs having lunch with a lawyer friend on December 6th with my wife. And then around 5:30 we set off from the suburbs. We had heard about the Babri demolition. And I told my wife, let's drive through the Muslim area and see what's happening. It was totally peaceful. It was totally peaceful. Trouble actually started around midnight. And then I got several accounts, I think right away, of two non-Muslim friends who lived in the Muslim area, who we were worried about also about that, who gave us a graphic description of how they saw gangsters, local, not major gangsters, petty gangsters, creating this confrontation between Muslims who were upset by the Babri Masjid demolition and the police. So it started off as a police-Muslim violence, which then, but somebody, you know, and I guess all of you would be aware, being in university, that no communal riot happens spontaneously. All communal riots are organized either by political parties or by powerful politicians, which more or less cut across political boundaries. I can only think of the communists who would be excluded from something like that. But all political politicians, but some parties even have it as part of their agenda for mass mobilization. So anyway, this riot was also organized, and you had the Shiv Sena on the one side, but you had someone trying relentlessly, using the Muslim underworld to provoke a situation where a major conflagration takes place. Several attempts were made. Finally, when they killed a Maharashtrian Hindu family, burnt them to death in a Jogeshwari chowk, including a handicapped girl, that day Bombay exploded. And you know, and that day there was mass violence. especially in central Bombay, but in areas all across. I used to live in South Bombay, which would never have experienced that. We had violence there also. Anyway, so coming back to the bombings, now the bombings were a reaction by a set of people, Muslims, who saw themselves as Muslims and who saw the bombings as retaliation, revenge against the Hindus for not just the demolition of the Babri Masjid, but because of the violence. And those days especially, the most provocative things which were going around were videos of atrocities against Muslims in Surat, which were particularly ghastly. Now these videos were circulated, and these videos, these gangsters also reportedly saw. Tiger Memon spoke about them, this has come out in court also, spoke about them to his associates. Anyway, now coming to Yaqub, I see the Memon family is a rather strange family. I mean, it almost sounds like a stereotypical family out of a Bollywood film, where you have one bad brother and one good brother. But there was something about that family which was bipolar. Now, by the way, they also have a history of schizophrenia. Yaqub's mother suffers from schizophrenia. His younger brother suffers from schizophrenia. And we heard that Yaqub also became a schizophrenic in jail. That would be partly due to what? His experience in jail and death row, which Anup Surendranath so vividly described for death row prisoners, but it would also possibly be because of his family home. Now, Yaqub was a chartered accountant. He had a chartered accounting company with a partner called Chetan Seth. And he had an office, a shop on the road. That office was attacked and burned during the riots. Yaqub was also the Hawala account manager of Tiger Memon. Now the family had moved from a chawl in Muhammad Ali Road to not a luxurious building. I visited their flats, very, very modest flats, but a new apartment block, small apartment block, in a better area in Mumbai. Now, because of Tiger Memon's smuggling, he was a silver smuggler. Now, Yaqub was a Hawala manager for that. There was a Hawala banker called Mulchand Choksi, and his job was, whenever Tiger told him, take the money from him, keep an account, and give it to whoever Tiger tells him to do. It is because of that activity mainly that Yaqub got linked up to the bomb conspiracy. Because the bombers had flown to Dubai and then or to Karachi. Now the money and the air tickets came through Yaqub's activity. Now Yaqub only knew that they were going to Dubai. He did not know that they were going further, or at least, his activity did not involve sending them from Dubai to Karachi. That was done by Tiger Memon's other brother, Ayub Memon, who has not come back. And for good reason, because he would have known what Tiger Memon, the conspiracy Tiger Memon was actually. So, and then, giving money to Tiger Memon's gangsters to buy vehicles. Again, it would be part of a normal smuggling operation. Now, aside from this, there are oral confessions by the accused, including a man who confessed, retracted his confession, then was told in prison that if you confess, you will be pardoned. So he was taken before a magistrate, told you will be pardoned if you confess. And then his confession was recorded. So you can understand
the motivation he will have to tell, give an account and a confession which he feels his interrogators want to. So, now, with, the whole point being that the evidence which seemed to be there against Yaqub would have, at the most, involved him in an Arms Act violation. Because some weapons were stored in his office at some point, which would have, like with Sanjay Dutt, it's 5 to 10 years in jail. And even in these confessions, unlike Sanjay Dutt, who took out the weapons, kept them, gave them back, all that, no one in the oral confession says Yaqub ever opened the bag, looked at it, took out the hand grenade, nothing like that. Just the bag was kept in his office and moved. On that basis, of course, the court gave him 10 years under the Arms Act. But, and that's what has been most puzzling, how did Yaqub get linked to the bomb conspiracy? And how did Yaqub get linked so deeply and convincingly that when the case came to the Supreme Court, by the time the case came to the Supreme Court, 11 people, including Yaqub, had got the death sentence. 10 were the actual gangsters who had betrayed in Pakistan, who had smuggled the RDX, who had planted the bombs. Now, the Supreme Court took an interesting view of this when it came to actually looking at their sentences. The Supreme Court felt that these 10 men who had actually done the bomb, their defense lawyer described them as pawns. And recording that defense lawyer's statement, the Supreme Court said that they are subservient minions. They were subservient minions. And therefore, on those grounds, the Supreme Court commuted their death penalty to life imprisonment. Whereas Yaqub they saw as a mastermind, as the archer, as the driving spirit, and he got the death penalty. But once again, going through the judgment, it's puzzling because you realize that there is no material evidence at all linking Yaqub with the bomb conspiracy. Number one. Number two, you have the fact that this man not only came back himself, came back with a lot of material implicating his own brother and Pakistan, and brought his entire family back except for 2 brothers who had a role in the bombing. So now, when I try to think about it, and I think about other death penalties in terrorism cases, like Afzal Guru, like Kasab, of course, and like case which is reported in the Indian Express today, of a man called Arif, who was arrested for the attack on the Red Fort. I get the sense that, that for the government, for the state, in a terrorism case, it somehow seems necessary to show to the people that the state has acted and the state is giving people justice. How? By ensuring that at least one person hangs. Now, I wonder what would have happened if Kasab had been killed. What would we have done? There was an Indian Mujahideen guy who had been caught with maps of Flora, Hutatma Chowk and Taj Mahal. I wonder whether, and the police clearly knew that though he was linked to ISI and the Indian Mujahideen, he was not linked to the attack on Bombay on 26th November. So he was not included in the case. Now, I wonder if Kasam had been killed, whether people like that the police would have ensured to show that, at least we've got one person who was responsible for the bombings and we are going to ask for the death penalty for it. And now, as far as the Mumbai bombings case was concerned, and the Supreme Court goes into this issue also, saying that 10 of them fell in one category. They were gangsters who trained as terrorists and acted as terrorists. And Yaqub was a brother of Tiger Memon and the Memon family. So now if you were to, the court discusses that for the same crime, you can't have different punishments. So the choice would be either commute all the death sentences to life or hang all 11 of them. Now, I think that despite everything, despite all this agitated public discourse about how death penalty is the only deterrent, our self-image still is that of a civilized nation. And a civilized nation is not going to hang 11 people all together on one day. So you have to do something to try and show that we are civilized, yet show that the state is acting against the terrorists and giving them the so-called deterrent punishment. And quite simply, that's how Yaqub Memon ended up hanging from that rope. Now just one last point, taking off from what Anup Surendranath was saying. This whole business about the death warrant. Now, I happened to be in Bombay after the death warrant was issued. And now, according to the analysts in Bombay, on April 30th, the story from Nagpur jail that Yaqub will be hanged on July 30th? July 30th was leaked to a newspaper and that preparations were being made. So, now some analysts in Bombay believe that this was done deliberately in order to create a public discussion on this issue. And to that extent, whenever I participated in any public debate on this, I felt a little stupid because I felt that, hey, I am also a collaborator in this political attempt. It had nothing to do with the courts. This political attempt to polarize the people of India by making them discuss in a limited time frame, discuss this issue of Yaqub Memon should hang or not, and make it out, as you would have noticed, that those who were insisting that Yaqub Memon should hang all felt that those who opposed or defended Yaqub Memon were all communal, anti-nationalist. And then yesterday I heard another interesting formulation by a former RAW officer. He described media people who defend Yaqub Memon as proxy fighters of ISI, proxy terrorists or proxy fighters of ISI. So now the media, if the media, a journalist says something, he is also being categorized as a part of the proxy war. And the irony is, the huge irony is, that these allegations are being done in the context of the hanging of a man who for the first time ever, got us solid evidence of ISI's proxy war against India. Without that, and just to give you an idea, we had no idea where the Memons were until Yaqub showed. And therefore today, you ask anyone in the agencies, where is Tiger Memon? Where is Ayub Memon? Nobody knows. And neither did we know. And these guys were given a 20-room mansion. They were given these passports. They were free to travel anywhere in the world. They went to Bangkok, Singapore. They made more than one trip to Dubai. New businesses were set up for them. They were given money. Rice export business, construction business, the Memon set up. And you know, the reason why they came back, I mean, I've spoken long enough, so I'll have to go into too much detail, but to put it simply in a short note, they came back because they were horrified that their family member, Tiger Memon, had done what he did at the instigation of ISI in Pakistan. They reject, despite living in luxury and comfort there, they felt repelled by the idea of Pakistan. And therefore, and along with it, and Yaqub particularly, they retained their faith in the Indian system. They retained their faith in Indian democracy, in the fact that India is an open society, that India has a just and fair judicial system, and they believed in their innocence, and they all came back convinced that they will, at the most, they thought Yaqub will go to jail for a few years. You know, that's all, because of his links with Tiger's smuggling business. Now, again, coming to the political issue, Narasimha Rao had a choice there to present this group of Indian Muslims. You know, I mean, whether we like it or not, this is a running debate even 65 years or whatever after partition, about the loyalty of Indian Muslims to India, their attraction to Pakistan. I knew Bal Thackeray well, I used to meet him a lot. And he used to go on about how Indian Muslims are anti-nationalists. So once I asked him, Bala Sahib, you must have come across one nationalist Indian Muslim. So he told me, Rahman, there are 5, according to me, there are 5 nationalist Muslims in India. So I said, 5? Please tell me who. So the first 2 we named were martyrs, Indian army martyrs in the war. So I said, okay, 2 dead Muslims. So then he said, Abdur Rahman Antule, the chief minister of Maharashtra for some time, who had supported Bal Thackeray a lot. When Antule was chief minister, Bal Thackeray's political war was really down. Antule helped. He gave Shiv Sena seat in the Legislative Council, brought him up. Then he named MJ Akbar. And then he named me. So I told MJ Akbar this. And MJ, as usual, makes nice wisecracks. So he said, yes, the good Muslim, the nationalist Muslim is the dead Muslim. So, because two on the list were. So anyway, the point is that Memons could have been projected politically as this Indian Muslim family, which was accused of terrorism, whose family member was the main mastermind of the attack, who were given all the comfort in Pakistan, rejected the idea of Pakistan, felt repelled by this proxy war, and came back to face justice in India. Can you imagine what sort of impact politically it would have had, even in terms of the Hindu-Muslim debate? And instead of that, exactly the opposite happened. It was seen as more evidence of how Muslims are treacherous, and all the evidence they brought was also used against them. So if they had Pakistani passports, you see this even in Madhu Trehan's interview, if you go back to it, on News Track, you see her pummeling Yaqub. Why did you take her, virtually saying, you traitor, you took a Pakistani passport, you are a traitor. How do you defend yourself? The man has come back with, and then when on TV debates with me, Madhu Trehan, kept on about how they were being tortured in Pakistan, how they were imprisoned in Pakistan. Now, responsible people in public debates are distorting the facts completely. And one last point about B. Raman, since he became so famous. I knew Raman well. Now, and I only wish he had had the courage, like a French novelist in the early 20th century called Émile Zola, who, when a Jewish military officer was wrongly convicted by the state, Zola wrote a famous front page article, and an anti-Semitic paper was campaigning against, and that guy was convicted and sentenced to jail. Zola wrote an article called I Accuse, and it was after that the whole thing turned, and eventually the Jewish officer was not just acquitted but also taken back in the military, with full honor. So anyway, I only wish Raman had done that. But even the fact that he did it posthumously was first challenged that it's a fraud, that is not correct. Now, people would not be aware, but the person who released Raman's article, Sheila Bhatt, again a journalist of long standing, had close family relations with Raman. And Raman dedicates his book to Sheila Bhatt's daughter, Shakti, who died as a young Random House editor, died in her late 20s. And the book, Raman's book, is dedicated to her. So they were close family friends. Sheila is not going to manufacture an article by Raman out of thin air. Second, I knew Raman. And there were two qualities about him which were very remarkable. One, unlike most RAW officers, he was, long after retirement, passionate about national security. Two, he was very, very hostile towards Pakistan. Extremely hostile towards Pakistan. But yet he was an intelligent analyst, so he used to email me his columns. And I used to always very avidly read his columns to understand issues. He was a man of total integrity. He used to live in such poor circumstances in Chennai that he could not meet visitors. He would meet them in his brother's house, which he was an IAS officer, also retired. So, a man like that wrote that article. And I thought at least when Anup just talked about the second mercy petition to the president, at least when it went to the president again, the president will say, what is Raman saying? I want to, and let me assure you, because a lot of things I know is because there are officials in Delhi still today who are closely involved with the Mumbai bombing schemes, who are distraught at what has happened, who are very upset by what is happening. One of them, in fact, phoned me last year when the first mercy petition went to the president. He said, Rahman, do something. Take an appointment with the president. I had written a long piece in the Express after the Tata court conviction. Take that to the president, speak to him, explain the context, what had happened. You know everything. And he said, I will also try to see the president independently and speak to him. Now, this is a man directly involved in the whole case. The president refused to see either of us. Now, this is the point that comes up when you're dealing with an issue like death penalty. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this official also writes a posthumous piece, which when he dies 20 years later, will reveal true further, because mind you, Rahman was not directly involved in the investigation, even though it was, he was involved in the logistics of bringing Yaqub back from Nepal. But the investigation actually was done by the CBI.